Hello and welcome to French ABCD. In this series, French from Scratch for Beginners, today we're going to look at Lesson 6A. Lesson 6A is related to verbs, in French, le verbe. First off, if you like, please subscribe and please comment, very important. Grand merci. Thank you. Up next, the reference, page 122 to 189 of this manual, Grammaire Française. All right, let's start. Le verbe, in English, verbs. What is a verb? Let's look at the definition in English first. Verbs are words that describe what the subject is doing. For example, he walks daily. It tells you, it describes a physical action. All form of life matters. It describes a state of being. The French definition is no different. Le verbe exprime ce que fait le sujet. The verb expresses what the subject is doing. Le sujet peut être une personne, un animal ou une chose. The subject can be a person, an animal, or a thing. Let's look at the following example. Le commis fait un bon travail. Le verbe faire indique ce que fait le commis. The verb faire tells us what the clerk is doing. Le chat dort. The cat is sleeping. Le verbe dormir tells us what the cat is doing. L'avion décolle. The plane takes off. Le verbe décoller tells us what the plane is doing. Therefore, le verbe faire, le verbe dormir, le verbe décoller marquent l'action de leur sujet, tells us the action of the subject. So, let's look now at l'état du sujet. Okay? Le verbe exprime aussi l'état du sujet, which is a state of being in English. Le lion est fort, le verbe être exprime l'état du lion. The lion is strong. Le verbe être expresses the state of the lion. Il semble préoccupé. He seems preoccupied. Le verbe sembler expresses l'état du sujet il. Le verbe sembler exprime l'état du sujet il. The verb sembler expresses the state of the subject il. Le verbe être, sembler, être, sembler, dans les exemples ci-dessus, the above example, as well as in other verbs in general, such as devenir et paraître, tells us the state of the subject. Identifier le sujet et le verbe des phrases suivantes. This is just to get you to practice. Identify the subject and the verb in the following sentences. I'm going to do the first two for you. So, le sujet, here is le sujet, and the verb, here is the verb. L'enfant, c'est le sujet, et dort, c'est le verbe. Give it a try, do the rest. Up next, le temps. Le temps indique quand se produit l'action. L'action peut être au présent, au passé ou au futur. So the tense. The tense tells us when the action is taking place. The action can be in the present tense, the past tense, or the future tense. Now, le présent indique que l'action a lieu en ce moment. The present tense tells us that the action is taking place at the moment we're speaking. Je lis un livre. I'm doing it right now. I'm reading a book. Le passé, the past, tells us que l'action a déjà eu lieu, that the action has already taken place. J'ai lu un livre. I read a book. Le futur, the future, indique que l'action aura lieu dans le futur. The future tells us that the action will take place in the future. Je lirai un livre. So let's recap. Je lis un livre, c'est le présent. J'ai lu un livre, c'est le passé. Je lirai un livre, c'est le futur. So, we have 6 modes de conjugaison en français, 6 conjugation moods in French. They are not that important for you to know at this stage of your learning, but it is certainly good to know. So I'm just going to tell them, to go through them quickly. L'indicatif, le conditionnel, l'impératif, le subjonctif, l'infinitif, le participe. Okay? So this is the indicative, the conditional, the imperative, the subjunctive, the infinitive, and the participle. It's keep it at the back of your mind, because later on, as we progress through the learning, you can come back to it and then have a look at it. Okay, now we start getting into the important part, okay? You need to know nombre et personne d'un verbe. This is very important because you absolutely need to know this in order to correctly conjugate French verbs. So, nombre et personne d'un verbe means number and person of a verb. So I'll prepare this table for you. The English one is in red, and the French one is in black. So the table is split up between singulier and pluriel, so singular and plural. We have it split up between première personne, deuxième personne, et troisième personne. So first person, second person, and third person. The way you should learn it is first person singular, second person singular, third person singular. Then you move on to first person plural, second person plural, and third person plural. So in French, I'm going to go through them. Première personne au singulier, c'est je. Deuxième personne au singulier, c'est tu. Troisième personne au singulier, c'est il, elle, on. In English, the equivalent for the first person would be I, second person you, third person he, she, it. Now, the first person plural in English, I'm going to go through the English first, is we. The second person is you. Now, you already know the distinction between you as a second person singular and you as a second person in plural. And finally, we have the third person plural in English is they. So for the French one, première personne au pluriel, c'est nous. Deuxième personne au pluriel, c'est vous. Troisième personne, c'est il, elle. Keep in mind, you do not say the S. You don't say ils, nor do you say elles. So I'm going to recap the French one only. Première personne au singulier, je. Deuxième personne au singulier, tu. Troisième personne au singulier, c'est il, elle et on. Première personne au pluriel, c'est nous. Deuxième personne au pluriel, c'est vous. Et finalement, troisième personne au pluriel, c'est il ou elle. Now, let's look at this one. Un verbe s'accorde en nombre et en personne avec son sujet. What does that mean? It simply means a verb agrees in number and in person with the subject. So, if the subject is in the first person, the verb will also be in the first person. Si le sujet est à la première personne, le verbe se met à la première personne. This is what it means. Un verbe s'accorde en nombre et en personne avec son sujet. En personne, c'est la première personne, deuxième personne ou troisième personne. En nombre, c'est soit singulier ou pluriel. Okay? So, si le sujet est à la deuxième personne, le verbe se met à la deuxième personne. Et si le sujet est à la troisième personne, le verbe se met également à la troisième personne. Donc, ici, première personne, deuxième personne, troisième personne, au singulier. Première personne, deuxième personne, troisième personne, au pluriel. Donc, le verbe parle, première personne au singulier. Parle, that we're going to see later on, the S, I will explain all of that later on, is in the second person singular. Il, elle, on, c'est la troisième personne au singulier, alors c'est parle. En principe, brièvement, c'est E, ES, E. The the first person ends in E, second person ES, third person in E. This is for verbs ending in ER. But we're going to go through that later on. And similarly, this is a plural one. Nous, vous, il et elle. The verb will also be the first person plural, second person plural, and the third person plural. That's pretty much what it means. So, moving on, folks. Can you do this exercise for me? Identifier la personne et le nombre dans les phrases ci-dessous. Can you identify the person and the number in the following sentences? Keep in mind, la personne, c'est first, second or third, and the nombre, c'est singular or plural. Okay, so tu écris une lettre. Can you identify the person? Is it first, second, or third? And le nombre, is it singular or plural? Refer to the table that we saw before. It should be easier for you. Now, les verbes en français sont rangés en 3 groupes. Okay? So this is, we're going to look at the first group now. Verbe en ER, meaning verbs ending in ER. The first group includes all the verbs whose infinitive se termine en ER. What does that mean, infinitive? It means in its raw form. Okay? So, verbe en ER, for example, aimer, chanter, parler. This is the first group. Most of the French verbs belong to this group. Tous les verbes en ER sont conjugués selon une méthode régulière. All verbs ending in ER are conjugated according to a regular method, with the exception, of course, of the verb aller et envoyer. Now let's look at the second group. Okay, les verbes en français sont rangés en 3 groupes. Okay, the second group would be the verb ending in IR. Le second groupe comprend tous les verbes avec l'infinitif en IR. For example, finir, grandir, réussir. Tous les verbes dans ce groupe suivent une conjugaison régulière. All French verbs belonging to this group are conjugated according to a regular method. Lastly, we are going to look at the third group. These are verbs ending in RE, IR, et OIR. So this is the third group of verbs ending in RE, IR, OIR. Example, rendre, RE, partir, IR, recevoir, OIR. I've color-coded it to make it easier for you. La conjugaison des verbes du troisième groupe est irrégulière dans presque la totalité des cas. So, the conjugation of verbs belonging to this third group is irregular in almost all of the cases. And that's it. Merci. Thank you for your attention. We're going to move on in the next lesson, 6b, but for now we're going to end here. We have seen the structure of the French grammar, the foundation, very important to understand every part that we went through. This will be very helpful when we move on to the next lesson. Thank you, have a good day, and talk to you soon.